Succeeding without a plan is almost impossible. The need to prioritize is critical, and the inability to focus is fatal. Hi everyone, Rob Kropp, and welcome back to another episode of the Trade Den podcast. Really good to have you back, Dan. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you, Rob. Always good to be back in front of things. Hello, everyone.
Yeah. How you been, mate? What's been happening in your world of late?
What have I been up to? I've been actually training. I'll share this with you guys. This is public commitment number one here. Training for a fitness event, actually, which is exciting. It's coming up in June. It's called High Rocks. So if there's any listeners out there that are doing BFT, they'd know what High Rocks is. But for those that don't, it's a bit of a fitness challenge. It's pretty tricky. The older you get, and I'm sure you'll remind me of this, it gets pretty hard. So it's very demanding, and it's something I signed up for a while ago, but been in the gym, doing a lot of lifting and kettlebells and ski ergs and all that sort of stuff with a fair bit of running. So that's what's been keeping me busy lately, and the event's coming up very quickly at the end of June.
Love it. You're not doing burpees, are you? Burpees, I hate burpees. How many burpees you do in a session?
Oh, too many. And that's not a lot, but there's plenty. We've actually got to do a burpee and then a broad jump. So we don't even get to sort of have any break. It's jump and then straight back on the ground again. But yeah, the shoulders, everything's aching, mate. Just leave it at that.
Good on you. I love it. Well, I don't like burpees, though. I think burpees are the worst exercise ever invented.
Yeah, they're horrific. They're always painful.
Good on you, mate. Well, looking forward to chatting more about that over in future episodes, and hopefully you can keep us updated on how you're going and how the challenge goes. I'm keen to hear more about it. It's awesome.
For sure. No worries at all. We'll do.
All right, good stuff. Well, shall we get into today? Isn't today going to be a really great episode? And I think today is going to be a really practical episode. But aren't we in for a treat for those who are listening today?
It's going to be a short, sharp session. But the power that's packed in these couple of ideas we're going to share are huge. So really looking forward to getting people on board with that and seeing what people do as a result.
Yeah, awesome. Today, what we're going to be doing is actually talking a bit about focus. And I know this is a really top topic that we love talking about in coaching because it's one of those traits of a business owner that a business owner has to continually work on to be able to continually keep developing and improving on in their world. And the reality is that we live in a world today that is absolutely full of distractions and conflicting priorities that are all competing for our time, our energy, and our attention. And if you want to be able to succeed in today's business environment, you need to be able to continually develop the ability to refocus and prioritize on what matters. The facts are the business owners lack the discipline to stick to a plan and focus on what the most important strategic plays are that are going to move their business and life forward. You have to accept that you're always going to have a never-ending to-do list of urgent things that are screaming for your attention to get things done. But the key is your ability to not get caught firefighting the urgent, but stay focused on the plan and continually prioritize the things that are going to create progression. So in this episode, we're going to explore about the power of focus and how it can help you achieve your goals, not only in business and life. We'll also share with you two powerful questions that in any moment you could refocus to prioritize what matters most.
Absolutely. And this is a practical episode, right? So it's going to support some of the previous conversations we've had, namely in episodes 6 and 7. So in episode 6, we debunked the time management myth and replaced time management with priority management. Now in episode 7, we said we changed our reference from time management to decision management. So really specifically around priorities, focus, and energy. So make sure you go back and have a listen to those if you haven't done so already. It'll provide a little bit more context for what we're about to jump into today. So when we talk about today's episode, as we said, what we're really going to dive into is focus. But we want to set the scene for that. And I think, Rob, where we can start off with is, what do we mean by focus? And maybe why is it important? Why is it such an important thing that we're dedicating this episode to something that everyone probably understands at an intellectual level?
Focus is, I would say, one of the most important traits for a business owner to develop to be able to succeed today? Like I was saying before, we live in a world that is now geared towards trying to distract us and get our attention.
Mhm.
And everything that's going on around us in today's world is attention grabbing, whether it's phones, various marketing messages, um, emails, text messages, social media, the news. Like everything in today's world is buying for your attention. So I think we live in a world today which is is pulling us almost from pillar to post. And then couple that in a business world when you're trying to grow a business, the demands of growing a business is really high. And when you're in the early phases of business, when you are wearing all the hats, it's hard to know what to focus on next when you've got so many things to focus on. And so I think for a business owner, it's not only that we live in a world full of things grabbing for our attention, but we're in a business environment that is constantly pulling us from pillar to post. And as an owner, we have to develop the ability to know what to focus on at the exclusion from everything else. Otherwise, we just feel like we're going on a hamster wheel all day long. And that's why I feel that focus is such an important trait that we have to continually develop as business owners.
Yeah, I think you're right. And you've hit on something there with that attention world that we live in. And I think the other part of that is the amount of information that's hitting us at all times. And I know it's funny you say that because I was reading something the other day, and it's a guy called Herbert Simon who first talked about the information economy, sort of way back. I think it was in the early 70s or something like that. But he's famous for saying a wealth of information creates a poverty of attention. So whenever there's so much information to consume, obviously you pay for that with attention. If you're going to consume information, you're going to pay for it with attention. So I think you're absolutely right. The idea is that if we don't shine a spotlight on this, then we just get sucked into whatever's going on around us. So whatever it is, consuming information, what's that data telling me? That takes your attention. That takes focus away from something else. So there's always, wherever you go, there's something that's taking away your ability to focus. And often it's that the priorities on what matters most that suffers.
Why do you think that so many people struggle to focus? What underpins that or creates that lack of focus, do you think?
I think it's a really good question. And I think for me, the reason why people so much struggle to focus is because, one, we have been trained, or we live in a culture where the grab for your attention is incessant, right? There's never ending amounts of things that could take our attention or our focus. And I think we get that. I think the other thing is the inability then to distinguish between what's important and what's urgent, and to hold on those important things that are our importance. And by that, I mean, if you think about all the spot fires that come up, because most of the people you listening is probably thinking, well, I get 1 million spot fires a day. I'm constantly putting out spot fires. So you're dealing with what is urgent. But what I think that means is that the spot fires that come up are often other people's important things. And when we get dragged into doing something that's urgent for someone else, or that is involving someone else, it's an important thing for them, but they've almost leveraged you into their world. So you do that, but you do that without thought a lot. And you do that on the basis of some people are just kind-hearted, kind-natured. And it's not so much going to the point that they're getting taken advantage of, but it's that ability to know that we've got this trait that we want to do good on the whole, and we want to do things right by others. And like we talk about reputational things in business, like we've got a business that is high service. So we've got to be high touch. We've got to be responsive to the needs of our customers. But quite often we trip over ourselves and we forgo what's important to us, and we put it all on the importance of someone or something external. And I think that's what takes away a lot of focus for people.
Yeah, because when you look at someone who goes the furthest, the fastest in their field, say that 10 times. It's a tongue twister.
Yeah.
The further, the farthest in their field, what they've got the ability to do is focus on what matters at the exclusion of everything else.
Mm.
Now, some people from the outside world look at that person and then go, they're a little bit narcissistic. They're all
Selfish.
about themselves. They're egotistical. They don't give a shit about other people. That's
Mm.
just not true. When you look at Olympic sports people or um, anyone in the sporting field or in the business world or politics or society, the people who go the furthest, the fastest, is because they know what they want, they know what their priorities are, and they focus on that thing at the exclusion of everything else. And they're not afraid to be able to go, no, that's not a priority. I'm going to focus on this.
Mm.
And that some people get upset by that. But if you want to be able to build a big business that does a really good work in the marketplace and gives you the time freedom and makes good profit and is a very successful business, you've got to do that. You've got to be a little bit ruthless and relentless in your approach in business, because otherwise you will get pulled from pillar to post all day long at the expense of the very thing that you're trying to create day in, day out.
Yeah, it's a big thing, isn't it? That idea of being selfish as a it's almost the trade-off. People who are trying to vie for your attention will peel off focus as being selfish. If you're too focused on what you want or where you want to go, you're being selfish. That's almost the cultural conditioning, right? But there's an element of saying, well, focus doesn't mean you're necessarily being selfish. If it's driven towards your goals, your outcomes, and doing that, then yes, you're going to have to be selfish to an extent in that you're going to either have to sacrifice things, you're going to have to say no to people, but that's just a fact of it. I think you're right. We taint it with the idea, or the idea is if you're focused on yourself, you're selfish or you're narcissistic. These labels come out way too quickly. So I think that's another thing that contributes to people losing focus or shying away from developing the ability to focus.
Yeah, because success requires sacrifice.
Yeah.
If you think of an Olympic sports person, if they want to be and win Olympic gold, they have to sacrifice so much in their world around often, well, their sporting is their career, but they often sacrifice other careers. Often they don't get paid very much, so they sacrifice their wealth. They sacrifice a social life because they're training 24/7. They sacrifice living in general because their whole life is all around um, winning Olympic gold.
Mm.
And so that's where they become hyper focused. And so when you want to become successful in business, you've got to make sure that if it is that what you really want, and if it is, what are you willing to sacrifice to be able to achieve that? And I know in my world, I'm just almost 40, and I know that I've achieved some amazing things in business and wealth and family, but I've had to choose what's important to me and choose what I've had to sacrifice to be able to remain hyper focused on achieving those things. And some people think that that is selfish and put all those labels on that, but that's their opinion on this matter. Whereas for me, is I'm comfortable with who I am and I know what's important to me, and I've made that decision of what does success mean to me and what am I willing to sacrifice in the meantime. And so your ability to be focused and, more importantly, hyper focused on what that is the key to being able to keep moving forward to be able to achieve what you ultimately want to be able to achieve in life. But we
Yeah.
can't deny the fact that success requires sacrifice along the way.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree with you. And I think that's the whole point. The people that are using those labels or throwing that on you when you're trying to be focused on your business or your outcomes or whatever it is. And sure, there's genuine concerns if you're way out of balance. And what you said was a priority is now being shown up as not a priority. If you're incongruous to that, I think there's always going to be problems. But then at the same time, if I'm trying to knock you out of getting to your outcome because I want to prioritize mine over yours in a competitive sense, and business, this happens all the time. If you're going to try and do that, the best thing I can do is say, hey, your focus is somehow harmful to you or to someone else. So we've weaponized focus to a point that either I don't want you to have it, I need to have it. So I've got to either take away your focus so that mine can get ahead of yours and therefore I can achieve my outcome quicker or sooner.
Correct. It's the ability to develop that laser-like focus is your key to success.
Yeah.
Because if you, as you alluded to before, we've spoken about it in previous episodes, that you can have a really good plan and the plan drives your priorities. Your priorities then drive your focus. Your focus drives your outcome. Now, we've seen it before where you can have a really good plan and you know what your priorities are, but a lot of people either dilute their focus and split it across way too many things, or they lose focus along the way. What I mean by diluting focus is they're working across way too many things along the way. They've got all these open jars open, and they're wondering, why are we not progressing as fast as we could? And so your ability to focus and really narrow that focus down is what helps you move and groove a lot faster in business, where you focus on one or two or three key things, get them done, achieve the outcome, then move to the next one. Intently focus on that, get the outcome, move on to the next thing. Otherwise, if you're working on 10 things, you divert your focus and split. You're giving 10% here, 10% there, 10% here. And that dilution of focus is what deteriorates the progression that anyone can achieve along the way.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that comes back to that acronym you said at the top, which is follow one course until successful. It's a really good little reminder to do that and be aware of it. Let's jump in then and talk about what these two key questions are. I'm keen to dive into that because I think how do we do this is the next question. I think we've talked around the importance of it. We've talked around what it actually means now. And hopefully that's given you some context for how you relate to focus in the sense of why it's so required in your world and in your business. But how do you do this, and how do you hold on to that in a world where all that attention's being sought, where those things are going to knock you off sideways? We can't change that, by the way. Those things are always going to happen. You're always going to have stuff come up. Things are always going to go sideways. And that's how do you recover your focus when that happens? And that's really what these two questions we're going to talk about allow you to do. Get back on track as quickly as possible. So the first question is really, it's 3 words. And that question is, what's important today? WIT, we call it, or WIT. What's important today? And this is it's a great question. And the reason why is because when we start asking what's important today and how we set this up, we have to make some choices. And when we do this, and I think, Rob, jump in here, but this is a habit that's got to be developed and becomes almost a ritual, doesn't it, as to what time of day we do this and the best time to do it?
Yeah, it's entirely up to what suits you in how you operate. Some people like to do this the night before, and they go, right, what's important for me to get done today or tomorrow? Because then that can allow them to go to bed, clear their headspace, let their subconscious get to work to be able to almost fragment along the way and put their day in order before they wake up and off they go. So some people like to do it to the night before. What's important for me to get done in today? Other people like to do it first up in the morning. Like they get straight up, they start their morning ritual, have a good breakfast, do some mindfulness, clear their head, and then before they get straight into the day, whether it's going to site, doing invoicing, getting quotes done, answering the phone calls that a million and one of them come during the day, it's about creating that circuit breaker in the morning to be able to go, well, what is it that I've got to get done today? Like, what is it that's really important to get done today? Because if you allow your day to start before you ask that question, you're just going to get dragged into the urgency of the day before you even have the time to take 5 minutes to sit down and go, right, what is it that's important for me to today? When do you like to do it? What's your preferred way of doing it?
I'm a morning person. I don't start a day without asking that question and I've got a task management system I use, and there's a little a report or review in that task management system where I can put things into my what's important today question. And I think when I do that, the other thing I'd add to that, so I'm a morning person to answer your question. The other thing then is I always make sure that there's no more than sort of 3 things in there. What's important today for me means I've got to limit that, right? there's plenty of stuff that's probably important. There's probably some urgent stuff to get done. There's things I know that have been on my to-do list that I haven't followed up on that are starting to run behind. But when I ask that question, what's important today, I'm trying to laser focus in, right? So it's got to be nothing more than 2 or 3. And the idea when you start talking about that is that if I said everything that I had to do today, that's a very different story. And if I said that everything I had to do today was important, nothing would be important. It's that old saying, if everything's important, nothing's important. So I think I do it in the morning. I make sure it's no more than 2 or 3 things, and then I'm done with that exercise.
I think this is different to a bit of a to-do list, because a to-do list are all the things that you have to get done in your day. But a to-do list, things that are on your to-do list are often things which are day-to-day things in your world, whether it's send that invoice out there, get that quote done, order those materials, schedule the guys, ring Mrs. Jones back. They're all the operational business side of things. But when we're talking a bit about what's important today, these are the important things that, as per your priorities, as per your plan, which you're doing to work on your business, which is going to create progression. So these aren't the day-to-day things, are they? These are the things which are helping us move forward to be able to really make positive changes in our world.
Yeah, as you were talking, I just had a look at mine, quickly flicked over, and I know that I've got probably 35 to-dos amongst personal and business and Pravar and all that sort of stuff. It's probably about 35 things I'm tracking on a to-do list, and a good dozen of those are urgent for this week, are important to me, and I know I need to get done. My what's important today has got 2 things on it. Record this episode, make sure I do my gym session tonight. That's really it. That's what's important today. If I get those 2 things done, really easy to have a good day, really hard to call it a bad day.
And the reason why this question is so important is because when we meet clients for the first time, they are always complaining that they don't have time. Time's always an issue. They're getting pulled from pillar to post. They're not feeling like they're moving forward, and they're crazy busy. And often what's happening is they're bleeding the important things that they need to get done. They get done at night time, because that's when it's peace and quiet, and they put their kids to bed and off they go and sit on the laptop and get more shit done at night time. And when we meet them for the first time, we ask them, well, what are your priorities at the moment? Not sure. Show us your calendar, and it's absolutely empty. And so a lot of these business owners are, they're not managing themselves well, and they wonder why time is an issue. Is because when you've got an open diary that's not structured correctly and you don't know what your priorities are, it's very hard to focus on what's actually important, because you've never actually taken the time to sit down and go, well, what is actually important for me to be able to move forward? And so when we work through clients around this, what we do is we teach them what is important versus what's not important. We actually help them define what that looks like. We work with them around putting structure around their days, their self-organization, their self-management skills around this. And a big part of this is teaching them this WIT acronym for them to be able to make it habitual on a daily basis, where they sit down before they start the day and go, what's important for me today? Now, it takes 5 minutes. Most people spend more time scrolling on Facebook and Instagram in the morning than they actually planning their day. And so the most important thing is, regardless if you do this the night before or the morning of, you've got to find what works for you. It's about creating that circuit breaker in your day, that before you just plow through your to-do list of all the things you've got to get done in a day, you've got to take a step back, breathe, ask yourself that question, what's important today? Answer it, thinking strategically, get them documented down on paper or in your task management system, whatever it is. Then you move into your day. Because then what that means is you're in control of you and your priorities. And then you've got to make sure you've got the focus throughout the day to be able to execute them, and then let everything else settle in around them. And that's the secret to being able to make sure that you're in control.
Yep, absolutely. All right, so now we've set up the WIT, what's important today, and we've either done it the night before or the morning of. We've only got a couple of things on there. We move into our day. And we know from experience, we've all experienced this, that shit goes sideways, right? Stuff's going to come up that we didn't expect. There's still urgent things that need to be done. There's still some other important things that you know you've got to get to. So when things do happen that way and you come across these, I call them sort of meteors that come and smack you up or you're trying to avoid or whatever it is, how do we come back on focus? And this is our second question, right? So all we've got to do is ask the question, what's important now? And the acronym, if you break that down, is WIN. So what's important now is our reminder. It's our chorus to the day of our thoughts. It should be anyway. So if we can focus on what's important now, we can make sure we follow through on that intention, which is what the previous question was. What's important today is almost the intention of I'm going to get these things done. But how do we commit to that in a world that's always going to have things going on around us? And how do we stay on track? This is what that next question does. It helps you stay on track throughout the day.
I really love WIN, and especially for guys in the trade space, because the office environment is very, very foreign for them. Now, a lot of guys got into business because they love their trade, their craft. They often hated school and they love being out there working with their hands. And for when we speak to a lot of trades business owners, they generally don't love being in the office, and it feels foreign to them. So WIN is something that can help you keep focused, and you can train yourself multiple times during the day to keep bringing your attention back to what's important when you're in an environment that you are learning to fall in love with outside of your trade.
Yeah, I love that idea. And I think what WIN does as well, it does something that it stops us from time traveling or going into the future or listing all the stuff and thinking I'm working on what's important. I know what's important, when really all we're doing is trying to recall our list. So what's important now brings us back into the present moment. So if stuff is going on all around you and it's hard to do and you're starting to get overwhelmed, stopping, breathing and asking WIN also allows you to have that circuit breaker on. Let me just take a minute to breathe, resettle, refocus, which is the whole point of the question. And I can come back into that present moment to go, right, what is important in this moment?
Because you've got to think about it, where throughout the day, we are getting smashed with text messages, phone calls, emails, other people's priorities. Then we get distracted. We jump on social media as a bit of an outlet, and we just get annihilated from all these other things trying to grab for our attention. And it's very, very easy to be able to lose focus throughout the day, multiple times a day. I know what works for me personally is time blocking my day out nicely and really scheduling my day well, so I know exactly what I'm working on and when. But then throughout the day, it's your ability to get up out of the chair, go for a bit of a walk around, go and get some fresh air. And in Melbourne during winter, there's not a lot of sun, but getting a little bit of sun
It's fresh.
on the skin. And then asking that question, going, right, what's important now? And it's your ability just to get out of that environment that you're in, breathe, what's important now, refocus my attention back in, bang, get straight back into it. Otherwise, your whole day can just go very sideways very, very quickly.
Yeah, absolutely it can. And I think to tie this back in then, the other thing in the last little point of the WIN question, it helps you answer. And if you come out with, well, what's important now, the first thing you must do as well is go back to what's important today. Always come back to that. Because if you've answered what's important today, you've got that anchor point. You've already answered that question, what's important now. Now, whether you decide that now's the time to work on what I said was important today or not, at least you're coming back on track to where you're focused. So for guys, we do this a lot. If I ask guys in a coaching call, well, what's important right now? I get a lot of, I don't know. I really don't. I think it's this or I think it's that. But if you had that anchor point of, well, what's important today, that should be your starting point for answering that question, what's important now, and then assess that against what's going on around you.
Yeah, I think a lot of business owners, when they worked for someone else, they got managed. They were managed by their boss. And the boss would often ask them, all right, what's important for you to get done? This is your job. This is where you're going. They were given direction. A lot of business owners soon realized that they didn't like taking direction and they probably want to be their boss of their own. And so they got into business because they wanted freedom in choice in their life. But they soon realized that it's to be able to achieve freedom and choice, it comes down to your ability to be highly disciplined and highly focused to create that freedom and choice. And so a lot of business owners want that freedom, but they've got to realize that for you to be able to get that, you've got to be self-disciplined and have that ability to self-manage on a day-to-day basis from a focus point of view, because no one is going to ask you as the business owner to be able to go, all right, Rob, what's your priorities today and what's important today? No one's going to ask you that. You have to ask yourself and learn that skill to be able to do that on a regular basis.
Yeah, for sure. So let's sort of go through that process end to end really quickly. So if you're listening, this is sort of how we'd recommend you implement these two questions. So I think first of all, what's important today? Do that either the night before, the morning of, in a quiet moment when you've got your best thinking about you, whatever suits you best, but come up with those 2 to 3 things that are going to anchor you into what's important today for you. And then as you progress throughout the day, things are happening, you're going from one task to another, or if you're starting to feel overwhelmed, whenever you can, whenever you're reminded or you think, what am I going to be doing next? Whatever that question is that comes up, replace it immediately with, well, what's important now? That's when you use it. And you use that question, what's important now, multiple times throughout the day, coming back to, if you need to, what did I say was important today, as the reminder. So that's almost like the backstop question as you get into your day and you start asking what's important now. But I think that's the tactical approach to it. It's very simple. There's not much more than that. Just remember those 2 questions, answer them as often as you can in a day, and follow through on that. And I think that's what sets you up for being able to either regain focus or stay focused, like we said, to remain consistent in that. And doing it every day is the key.
Yeah. I would go as far as saying that your ability to learn and master this skill set is the cornerstone to your success in business. And you can learn new skills around marketing and sales and financial management and all those types of leadership. Get help with AI and help AI to organize your diary. That's just all rubbish. All those skills are a waste if you don't have the ability to self-manage on a day-to-day basis. It's actually a waste because you now know more, but you don't have the ability to execute well against that knowledge. And so in coaching, this is why we put so much emphasis on fundamental self-organization and self-management skills around these topics, around your relationship with time, prioritization, your ability to focus, scheduling, time blocking, all these topics that we've been talking of late in our podcast. These skill sets are the cornerstone to your success in business, because otherwise you can learn all the other strategies, but you just won't have the time and the focus to get them done anyway.
All right, so let's bring this home. Rob, I'm keen to hear your key takeaways from today's episode.
Love this topic around focus, but I've got 3 big takeaways from today's episode. Succeeding without a plan is almost impossible. The need to prioritize is critical, and the inability to focus is fatal.
Ooh, that's big. The inability to focus is fatal. Fatal to your dreams, your hopes, your outcomes, whatever it is you're chasing, your inability to focus is fatal. I love that. What a takeaway. I think for me, if I can add one in there, I'm going to add the idea that you have to keep your wits about you to win the day. And what I mean by that is those 2 key questions. When I talk about wits and win, I'm talking about you need to keep understanding and being aware of what's important today around you. So hold on to that question. And then you also need that to win the day. What's important now helps you win the day. So ask yourself those 2 questions, keep your wits about you to win the day, and let's see where it takes you.
Love it. Awesome. Something that a practical action step from today's episode is let's get rubber meeting the road from today's topics. And it's your ability to be able to start integrating wit and win into your day immediately. Let's not delay. Let's start tomorrow fresh with either doing it this afternoon or first thing tomorrow morning. What's important today? Let's get in there and start organizing and getting that done straight away. But today onwards, see how many times you can challenge yourself to be able to ask yourself, what's important now? What's important now? What's important now? And let's start integrating this into your world immediately. And we're keen to hear what you've taken away from today's episode around how these two questions can really help you maintain your focus to be able to get more done. Hopefully you've enjoyed today's episode. We've absolutely loved recording it, and hopefully you've taken a lot from it, and it's your ability to really now develop that focus muscle of yours to be able to get more shit done in the time that you've got. Thanks for tuning in with us today. If you really enjoyed today's episode, make sure you hit that follow button. Also share it with your mates, because we are in an environment where everyone is grabbing for everyone's attention. Share this episode with your mates. Hopefully they can learn something from it, and looking forward to coming back to you next week with another great episode. Thanks, guys.
No worries. I'm off to tick off that what's important today. Recording this episode done. See you on the next one.
See ya.